Hello everyone, my name is Feby Sekar. Today I'm going to talk about studying locally versus studying abroad. What is the difference? You might be asking yourself, where am I going to continue my studies? Is it better to study abroad or study locally? I'm sure this problem most of you have to face. Choosing where to study, either locally or abroad. Trust me, I have been through this kind of dilemma. After a long process, I decided to study at a local university for an undergraduate program. So, am I giving up on studying abroad? Of course not, because I still have a dream to study abroad. However, the reason why I decided to study locally is that there are a lot of considerations. In my opinion, whether you want to studying abroad or studying locally, each of them have the advantages and the disadvantages. Today, I'm going to inform you about the advantages and the disadvantages of studying abroad and studying locally. I hope that this speech will be helpful for you to decide whether you want to study abroad or study locally. After having studied locally for the past 2 years, I realized that it has a lot of positive impacts on me. Regardless of its benefit, I still have a dream to study abroad in the future. I have read several articles about studying abroad. Moreover, I have read several books about it. Some of the books are Beasiswa 52 Menua by Ahmad Fuadi, Rentang Kisah by Gita Savitri, JKLN by Miftahuddin Arjuna, and Mamta Pujiwa by Jerome Pauline. I would recommend this book if you want to study abroad but don't know how to start. Recently, I also joined a webinar about how to get a scholarship study abroad. So, the information that I'm going to share with you today, based on my experience studying locally at one of the one of public university around 2 years, then I will explain what I have learned from the article. Furthermore, I will put additional information that I get from the books and the webinar. Therefore, I would like to inform all of you today about the difference between studying locally and studying abroad that can be divided into the advantages and the disadvantages. At the beginning of this speech, I will explain the difference between studying locally versus studying abroad. Next, I will divide the subject into two parts, the advantages and the disadvantages of studying locally. Then, I will describe the advantages and the disadvantages of studying abroad. I would like to explain by illustrating the advantages and the disadvantages of studying locally. Because, like a coin, everything has two faces. Studying locally might be beneficial for some people, however, it might be the best for you to take the opportunity to study abroad. It will depend on your condition and interest. In this speech, I want to help you to see the positive and the negative aspect of studying locally so you can see it clearly and consider it carefully. The following point I want to illustrate is the advantages of learning at a local university. So I hope that you hear carefully because it might be good for you, especially if you feel sad that you cannot study abroad now. I want you to know that you don't have to worry because you still have a lot of chances. Based on my experience study at a local university, there are several benefits of studying at a local university. First, more affordable tuition fee and living costs. So, if you are like me, whose household income is not enough for everyday needs, this could be a main concern for us when it comes to decision making regarding to studies. Apart from these staggering high tuition fees, you must also take into account the living costs as well. I know you might be wondering why I don't try to find scholarship. Well, according to Miftahuddin Arjuna, In his book entitled JKLN, most of the scholarships are intended for master degree and doctoral degree. Also, the institution that provides scholarship usually prioritize students in a certain field of study such as civil engineering, nursing, law. Moreover, if you don't want to learn a foreign language or prefer to study in an area where people can speak the language that you already know or mother tongue, studying locally might be the best option for you because you can easily communicate with your friends and you can understand the material being delivered by the lecturers. Also, another benefit that you can get from studying at a local university is you are surrounded by your friends and your family. Surrounded by your friends and your family is really important because if you are studying abroad, you will separate from your family and friends, and it's possible for you to feel homesick. According to Mr. Hudin Arjuna on his book JKLN, when the first time you are studying abroad, usually you will feel depressed, lonely, and homesick, or you just want to return to your hometown. Of course, you can do that because you have a responsibility to continue your study. So studying locally, it's a nice solution if you can stand being apart from your family for 1,000 miles. And the next point that I want to talk to you is the disadvantages of studying locally. Are you can encounter different culture. Also, you have a small chance to join the international community and a limited choice to get the best education. First, according to Miftahuddin Arjuna on his book entitled JKLN, if you don't study abroad and decide to study locally, you can have opportunity to encounter different cultures. However, if you study abroad, you can meet a lot of people from different countries, race, and ethnicities rather than studying locally. Second, there is a small chance for you to join international community. I know that we have international communities such as ISAC. However, if you are studying abroad, you have a bigger chance to involve in international organizations such as Education First, the Education Abroad Network, Forum Nexus, and etc. You can only get this kind of opportunity if you are studying abroad. Lastly, the lack of choice may be the most noticeable disadvantage of studying locally. In certain situations, particularly courses cannot be obtained from nearby universities or college. This is why students choose to study abroad. For example, the top law school mostly in the UK. So studying abroad is the only way if you want to get the best education from the best university. I like I like now to move to the next the advantages and the disadvantages of studying abroad. Based on my previous explanation, it seems that studying abroad is beneficial for us. However, it doesn't mean that studying abroad doesn't have the downside. In this part, I'm going to share with you all the pros and cons of studying abroad. First, the advantages of studying abroad are learning new culture, mastering a second language, developing transferable skill, improving critical thinking, and building communication and international teamwork. First of all, I'm going to explain one of the advantages of studying abroad is learning about new culture. According to Miftahuddin Arjuna on his book entitled JKLN, uh, it is obvious that we, when we study abroad, we will encounter new cultures such as their traditions, festival, and a lot of religious activity. You can also see their modern cultures such as music, fashion, and lifestyle. Also, the most important thing is you will learn their positive habits. For example, if you want to study in South Korea, German, or Japan, you should know that people in those countries are disciplined. So if you have an appointment, make sure that you are arrive on time. You should never be late or make some excuses or you are not going to be respected by them. The next point that I'm going to explain to you is the disadvantages of studying abroad. For example, culture shock and homesick, academic pressure, study required the student to learn a second language and required a lot of money. Based on the book entitled JKLN by Miftahuddin Arjuna, as a person who has first studied abroad, you are surprised by entirely different culture and may experience a culture shock or a condition when you are surprised by extremely different culture. To get away from culture shock, you have to stay productive and involved in fun activities such as hanging out and communicating with a local people. It would be nice if you can make friends with the locals because you can understand their culture better. The last one that most of us afraid of is academic pressure while studying abroad. Based on a webinar how to get a scholarship study abroad, one of the speakers, Rahmat Adi Sprianto, explained that social media does not always represent a student life. Because studying abroad is challenging. There are a lot of assignments, tests, and a tight schedule that we cannot share on social media. But as I explained earlier, we have to study hard and manage our time. Also, we have to remember that our main purpose is to study abroad is to get a higher education. In conclusion, we have looked at the advantages and the disadvantages of studying locally. Then we also show the advantages and the disadvantages of studying abroad. I will leave you with a quote from Robert Kiyosaki, the author of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Your choice decides your fate. Take the time to make the right one. If you make a mistake, that's fine. Learn from it and don't make it again. From this quote, I want you to think carefully before you decide whether you want to study locally or study abroad, because your future will be affected by your decision. Regardless of whatever you choose, you should make sure that's what you want. After knowing the differences between studying locally and studying abroad, including the advantages and the disadvantages, I hope it will give you a better understanding that help you decide what you want to do in the future. Well, I guess that's all I can say. I hope that it will be beneficial for you. Thank you for your attention. See ya.